everybody. Welcome back to Young Adults Home Groups. I hope you survived the cold. Hope you're warm and cozy in your home group location together, and you can have a blessed night together. Hope it's not too crazy out there for you with the weather, but glad to be together. Tonight we're going to get into the next section of Exodus. Chapter 32, 33, and 34 are sort of a break in what has so far been the action as we've looked for weeks at the part of Scripture where Moses is receiving all kinds of instructions on the mountain, laws that we looked at, and then the instructions for building the tabernacle. And then right in the middle of that, I include the last verse in 31 in the reading, verse 18. Moses receives the 2 tablets of the testimony. It says, written with the finger of God. That's pretty crazy. And then you have this break in the action where something really different happens, and it's the kind of thing that is maybe normal to our experience in terms of the larger kinds of things we deal with in terms of sin and needing to find forgiveness from God. But it's really a new thing in the history of Israel, and it kicks off a whole little series of events here in these chapters. And so we're going to get into it in the next few weeks. I thought we would take just the first section, the first 14 verses or so of chapter 32 to discuss. And it is that scene where the people have made the golden calf and God sends Moses down the mountain to deal with it. And so I divided the questions up into 2 groups, and really either A group or B group of questions could take your whole evening if you want to talk and then pray about it. And the A group is just talking about the idolatry of Israel, what happened in the scene, and some New Testament connections for us in terms of application and what's really going on there with them and what we can learn about it. And then the second sort of angle you could take on this passage is the really interesting look we get at Moses' relationship with God in the middle of all this. I think that having to confront the sin of Israel brings out some really interesting aspects of the way Moses and God interacted, why Moses' experience with God was so different than Israel's in one sense, right, in this scene anyway, and then the way that Moses cares for the people and talks and prays to God about the people, and then what we see from God in the middle of all that. And there are some fascinating things here, the kinds of things that open up questions about how God runs the world, what's going on, the kinds of things that can really challenge our, I'll say, maybe preconceived ideas or already formed or half-formed ideas about who God is, what it means to be God, how he works, theology. But not just random theology to talk about, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin or something like that, but theology like, who is this God I worship? How will he shepherd my life? What can I expect out of prayer? And what does that tell me about God and his plan? All kinds of things like that to talk about. Again, I don't suggest that we just begin talking about big ideas about God that we have, but that we just keep letting the text tell us things about God, even if we don't. Here's how I like to work. Even if we don't totally know how to put all the dots together every time we read, even if we don't think we have a grasp on what it means completely, to be challenged and have our thoughts shaped by what we read when we read about God being himself is just super helpful. And you can sort of end up with maybe some answers and some questions, and then pray about it together and worship the God who once sent his prophet back down the mountain to go confront the sin of his people and said that he wouldn't go with them anymore, and then said that he would after Moses prayed. Pretty amazing stuff there. So I hope you are blessed in interacting with the scripture, and Lord willing, we'll see you next week back together for large group.